matter, and as a follow-up to the benefit that I ran for Jasmine's house a few weeks back, I know there's been a lot of questions, a lot of bickering going on about, you know, this expert and that expert and the other who thinks they know everything about pit bull dogs. Well, it just so happens that I have somebody here with me who actually has an opinion to share on a pit bull dog. I have with me Officer Craig Sperry, who is a canine officer, also a dog trainer, has had a lot of experience with different breeds of dogs. I believe you said you have a pitty of your own, yes?
I've had pits,
You've
yes.
had pits.
Currently I do not have a pit, but yeah.
Oh, okay. And we've been talking quite a bit over the past couple of days about the breed-specific legislation, misconceptions of pit bulls. And as all the experts don't want to agree, I brought in my own. And so we're going to talk a little bit about this. So let's just jump right to the meat of this matter. And that is, what do we think of breed-specific legislation? What do we think of the idea of the pit bull is inherently dangerous?
I think that's, to me, that's ignoring a obvious fact that any dog can be dangerous. It's not just pit bulls that can be aggressive and dangerous. So to label just a pit bull breed as being dangerous, to me, it's unfair, and it's kind of targeting them for reasons that you know, it seems to be hyped up by the media more because it's a pit bull. German Shepherd dogs have more bites per year than any other animal, but you don't really hear about that. So to say for pit bull specific, I don't agree with it.
Okay, now obviously one of the big problems, of course, is that devil's advocate on this. I mean, bites do happen. But one of the problems becomes is that it seems like a lot of the legislation is victimizing responsible pet owners. I mean, you talk about people that are dog fighters. You talk about backyard breeders, where you get the really inferior genetic lines in dogs because of the demand and the overbreeding and the inbreeding. And then, of course, the people that just make them mean, you know, which, again, as you say, any dog can be made mean, but certainly people go out of their way. Some people have gone out of their way to make pit bulls mean, which doesn't help the reputation. So the real problem becomes is that what does a responsible pet owner do? If, in order to try to fight this sort of misconceptions and these sort of, you know, urban myths of the pit bull as Satan itself, what can a responsible pet owner do to try to change minds?
Well, a responsible pet owner obviously would do research first off and understand what it is when you're getting a pit bull, what they act like. Every breed has their specific traits. And that's what makes them specifically what they are. A Labrador retrieves, loves the water. You know, German Shepherd's very loyal, very protective, a very smart dog. So each breed has their own specific qualities. If you don't know what you're getting yourself into, you need to do some research, and not just read a book or watch a video. Talk to people who have had pit bulls. Go to some rescue groups, talk to them. Find out people who have adopted pit bulls out of the rescue, and go talk to them. Sit down with them and meet their animals and see what they have to say. That's when you're really getting an idea of what you might be getting yourself into. And I'm not saying that it's anything bad you're getting yourself into, but you've got to know what you're working with in order to maintain structural order within a pit bull in a household. It can be done, and that's what people need to do.
So a great example, as you say, about, you know, certain traits. Whether, I don't know if it's true or not, this might actually be one of those misconceptions I refer to, but like Dalmatians are a very high energy dog. And if you're not someone that's prepared to put the time into a high-energy dog, you might not want a Dalmatian.
Exactly, yes. That is a good point. And with pit bulls specifically, you know, and this is my expert opinion, I've worked with them, I've trained them, I've owned them. They just have an inherent trait to where it can be brought out, whether it's by the owner or by, you know, a rabbit crossing the street. It's really hard to suppress something that we've bred into them for so many years. I mean, they were bred to fight bulls. And as you mentioned earlier, people have exploited that trait to fight them. And when you fight and breed fighting dogs and then you rescue them, well, you're bringing out a trait in that dog, and you're trying to get that trait out so hard, and now you're trying to recess the trait. It's hard for the animals to get it and to understand it when it's just an action that they just can't suppress. It just happens. It's not taught. It's not bad owners. It's just the dogs are dogs, and that's what they do.
So like in a case of, we talk about the Michael Vick dogs. I think it was 19 of the Michael Vick dogs that they were able to actually rehabilitate. And many, as Jasmine's house was actually named after Sweet Jasmine, who was one of the victory dogs. these dogs were able to be rehabilitated and live lives and be family dogs and so on and so forth. But as you talk about, it's just a trait of the dogs. They were bred to do this. And people have exploited that and brought it out and made them more aggressive so they can fight them. But there is a way back. Do you feel that there's always a way back?
Oh, absolutely. I've rescued feral dogs who have learned how to survive on their own. One in particular, German Shepherd, been in the woods 5 years through winters, blizzards, and learned to be a feral dog, learned to live on his own. He didn't need people, he didn't need anybody. He was an aggressive dog when I got him. He didn't trust you, he didn't like you. He would try to bite you if he could. And I worked with him, and we fixed it, and we got him good. So it's not impossible, but what people need to realize when we talked about it is you've got to understand what you can put yourself into.
Right.
You can't just bring a pit bull in your house and expect that it's good to go. You have to understand how to read your dog. You have to understand what things to avoid when it comes to triggering these things inside of them that could bring back memories that would have them lash out or act in a way that you didn't expect. So you got to do your homework, you got to do your research, and you got to be responsible.
Well, that would be a point to bring up. If, in another case like the Michael Vick, someone taking in rescue pity. If you're bringing in a bully and you're trying to help them out, what sort of things should people do? Okay, you've adopted your pit bull. Here's your pit bull. Either a rescue or a puppy. Adopted, not from a breeder. You have your... Sorry, it's one of my issues. But you've gotten your new bully. You know, either it's a baby or a rescue. What should you do once you've got this dog? What do you do with it?
Well, one of the most important things is to socialize your animal. It's very important for them to stay socialized. You don't want them to become territorial. You don't want them to feel like they have to defend you or your home, your yard. So socialization is very key in the rehabilitation process. I don't think anybody would rehabilitate a pit bull who has been a fight dog without socializing first, without seeing and making sure that they're good around other people or their dogs. Food, anything. So there's things you can do. The way you feed your dog makes a difference. You should learn and understand that feeding your dog should be a ritual or routine that you do every day, a certain way, to ensure that your dog doesn't get food aggressive. Things like that, small things that end up becoming bigger in the whole scheme of owning a pit bull. People need to understand, do research, and implement it when they first get their dogs.
So ultimately, what you'd be setting out to do, pretty much from day one, is to make the dog secure.
Yeah. Basically, everything that you do is to keep the dog happy, healthy, and not to make him feel like, the biggest problem I see is they let the pit bulls become too dominant in the household. And you've got to have structure, you've got to have balance. And they need that, they want that. And when they see that you've got it, they tend to be a little bit more...
So he feels safe, so he feels like he's taken care of.
Right, yeah, to make them feel at home, but not feel like they have to protect their home, pretty much.
As we're agreed that, there's no such thing as an inherently dangerous dog. And that there is, a way back for these kind of abused dogs. Now, this legislation and these sort of, this kind of popular misconception of bullies, obviously we know where it's coming from. It's coming from the media. I mean, attacks are happening, and I think we can assume that all these attacks are coming from people who just don't know how to treat their dog. They're not raising their dog right, and they're kind of letting these things happen. Is that...
Along the lines of it, that pretty much outlines it. You've got inexperienced owners, people who, the animal lovers are animal lovers, and they want to come in, they want to nurture, care, and love the animals, but they've got to do it the right way. And the right way is, it's respect, and it's a two-way street. You've got to give it, and they will give it. And when you get to that point, the dogs will love you more, and they'll just act like dogs. That's the whole goal, is to let them be dogs. Not make them feel like they have to protect the house. Not abusing them, because when you abuse your animal, they learn how to be abusive to other people when you're not around. So it's very just being aware of what you're doing at all times. Every little thing you do is an impression on your dog when you first get it. So it's important that you take the steps to curb any kind of bad behavior that you might be showing your dog and not even realizing it.
Now, would that speak to, when we hear of instances of perfectly, no history of aggression in a dog whatsoever, and the dog suddenly turns on somebody? Now, we hear these stories. Now, what would be your opinions on that? How does that happen, that, these pitties that will suddenly turn on?
It doesn't, in my opinion. It doesn't suddenly happen. unless you provoke them. Without provocation, to just suddenly happen is to me, that's not how it works. There's things going on before it was provoked to do something. Either the way it was raised or just the neglect or the abuse. There's something else behind it. I own a pit bull. It was one of the sweetest dogs I've ever had. I took the time to understand what it took to raise a pit bull, to understand a pit bull, and to work with a pit bull. I was comfortable and confident knowing that that's not going to happen because I took the steps necessary to make sure that we wouldn't have a problem, and we never did. And it comes from you knowing your animal, and you doing your research and homework will help you understand your animal, and they will understand you, and you'll never have a problem.
So in the end, what it really, to simplify the statement, it really kind of is the owner, not the dog, but not 100% that way.
Well, there's always dogs that are just inherently dominant and inherently submissive. It's just the way it is. So it's easier to, if you don't understand what you're doing, a dominant dog is going to run all over you a little bit more than a submissive dog would. But a submissive dog that you let not have structure, boundaries, limitations will go out and become that dominant dog. People say all the time it's the owner, not the dog, and it's good. It's true to a point, but I think it's misconstrued when they say it's the owner, not the dog. A lot of people assume it's the people beating the dog and turning them aggressive. A lot of it's just neglect on the owner's part, not knowing how to structure their animal, and then they learn to act a certain way based on you not doing what you're supposed to, not just beating them, not showing them the way, I guess. And a lot of times you disciplining your dog, you think you're disciplining your animal, you think you're yelling at them for doing something wrong, and you're punishing them. They don't really understand human anger and punishment. It's not like it is in the wild. And what you actually end up doing is you end up teaching them how to act when you're not around. Because you're a dominant dog to them, and you're showing them, hey, this is how a dominant dog acts, to put you in your place. So when you're not there, or someone comes over to your house that they don't know, well, they take on that role, because that's what they are inherently trained to do, really, by Mother Nature. That's how they protect their pack. They act like an alpha dog. Well, you just showed your dog what an alpha dog does to someone that they don't like because you yelled and punished your dog. So you're actually showing them how to act a certain way. And so, yeah, for me, yelling at a dog, punishing a dog the way a lot of people do, is actually hurting your dog in the long run in the bigger scheme of things, which can make it aggressive, make it do things that you never thought possible because you showed it how to do it.
Now, what would be the more appropriate way?
The more appropriate way is it's situational, obviously, but to yell at a dog does nothing for it. They don't understand human anger. They don't understand human aggression. They feel energy, and they know quick. It's you did something wrong. It's a quick punishment, and then it's over with. When I say punishment, it's not like you yell at them. You don't hit them. You do like they do in the wild. What would the mom do to the baby if it was too rowdy and they wanted him to calm down? Well, they would very quickly give him a snarl and either a bite to the back of the neck, just enough to say, hey, enough's enough, and then that's it. And then the animal understands that and moves on.
Now, when you say that the mother would give them a nip, now you're not suggesting that we bite our dogs.
No, absolutely not. But you can take your hand and you can't telegraph it, so you can't show it it's coming. You just got to react, and it's got to be a quick bite with your hands and out, almost like a snake bite. It's quick and it's over with. And it's with a whatever you want to say to make it a quick sound so they can associate the bite with a sound. And then it's it. That's it. You don't teach them you don't hit them, you don't yell at them. Like I said, they don't understand when you yell. That doesn't do anything for a dog. You'll get more to your dog with that quick thing than you will yelling at your dog.
And so, of course, then, speaking to the one of the other popular misconceptions is that a heavier hand is required when training a pit bull type dog.
And that's part of what I'm talking about. That by having a heavier hand with your animal, you're either going to, one, make it so submissive that it's fearful and it will bite, or two, you're going to have a heavy hand and teach your dog that, hey, this is how a dominant dog acts, so when I'm not around, guess what? You can act like this. Because now you are dominant dog. You are alpha dog. And alpha dogs handle submissive dogs in an aggressive, heavy-handed way. And that's the trait that's going to come out in your animal.
Okay. Well, Ian, it's been very informative. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks for letting me talk.
See, they're not all bad. Cops, I mean. No, the pit bulls. Thank you so much for taking your time.